Hey everyone, welcome back to Frankie's Forest. In today's video, I'll be doing a garden tour. So we will start over here at the left side of my rock garden. And in the corner, I have a butterfly bush. And this attracts a lot of different pollinators, such as butterflies and bees. And also, it attracts hummingbirds, which is really nice to see every once in a while, seeing them drink from the flowers. Moving down for a little bit of protection from the rabbits, I have a couple silver dusty millers. If you didn't know, silver dusty millers actually serve as great protection because it repels rabbits and squirrels and things like that will come and dig or eat your plants. So moving to the right here, I have a Montauk Daisy, also known as a Shasta Daisy. It is not yet in bloom. It should bloom soon. And behind that, there are 4 lavenders. Unfortunately, I forgot what exact species they are, but I might remember and put it up on the screen, but if I don't, that's because I forgot. And then in between them, there are a few rose campions. There were a ton here. You might remember I made a rose campion video showing all my rose campions, but I took tons of them out because they really spread like a weed, and I just kept a couple there for next year, and then I'll of course have to continuously clean them out. And I plopped a couple right there in that little area. Moving down here, there are a couple Zagreb, just kind of in between the rocks here. And then there are 2 Yarrows. One of them is planted directly into the ground, and it has a really nice pink, light pink, almost red color. And then this one in the pot, actually these 2 in the pot, have a bright white color that attracts a lot of monarch butterflies this year. Above it, there is a very old pine tree. I'm not exactly sure what kind it is. It's been here, it was here before we moved here. It was planted over 40 years ago, I believe. Moving down to the left center pot in the rock garden, there is a pot with a couple of different flowers in it. A couple of them are some marigolds that you can see on the edges. There are also a few baby's breath, which are these small white flowers that are here and there in this pot. There's one here as well that hasn't flowered just yet. And then there are a couple petunias around that are starting to go out. And then in the center, there are some impatiens. Directly to the right of that, there is a little patch of some lemon coral sedum. It's just growing there. It kind of grows as a weed in our garden. So we try to control it and keep it in a little circle because it does look pretty, just to fill up some area so there's less weeding to do. And then moving up, there's a little boxwood there that I have to trim. And then in those 2 spots right there behind this steel sunflower, that spot right there and that spot right there, I'm going to put a couple bugles in there. I'll show you what the bugles are in just a second. Then moving below that, there are a few different pollinator bushes. 3 of them are some salvia, and then there is 1 large catmint that is excellent for attracting pollinators. It really looks its best early spring, and then after that, even if you trim it and do things to it, it kind of just still looks overgrown and it won't flower as much, but it still attracts a lot of pollinators on hot, sunny days. Once again, just a couple dusty millers to protect some of the succulents here. There are a couple other lemon coral sedums there, and then there's also a couple prickly pear cacti that are growing there that are actually perennials in this area, zone 6B. There are 2 creeping pines, and then behind these 2 dusty millers, there is actually a creeping phlox that there are a couple wild chives in that I have to pluck out. But next year we're probably going to take those out because you couldn't really see the flowers. We thought they were going to stay low, but they ended up growing up and blocking the phlox. Moving down here, there are a couple varieties of marigolds, and then there's also a Zagreb. And behind the Zagreb, there's a little peony that's not in bloom anymore. But there were quite a few marigolds in this area, but they just got completely destroyed by the rabbits. We actually got the marigolds specifically this way the rabbits didn't eat them, because we've heard that rabbits will never eat marigolds, and we've had such good experiences with having marigolds the whole year, not having them eaten at all. So we thought it would be the same this year, but I guess they were just hungry. Moving on to the other side of this rock, we have 2 more zagreb, and then above that there is a little bit of an herb garden with some oregano, thyme, and rosemary. These are bugles, which I was just talking about, that I want to fill those 2 areas with. And they grow down and they spread almost like phlox. Moving up to here, we have a couple different varieties of heucheras. There's a couple here that are just here in between the rocks. As you can see, this is not a weed. This is an evening primrose that still hasn't flowered. It looks so stocky and strange in that position there. And then there's also a few more down here and over to the side here. And then I think I remember the names of a couple of these heucheras. I remember that this one is something peach parfait or something like that. Another one is something carnival. I don't know. I really don't know anymore. I haven't reviewed their names since last spring, so I kind of forgot. Moving back here are also an unidentified type of succulent. They look really cute, just kind of almost like mini cacti. Really cool. And then one more creeping phlox there, and another creeping pine. Moving on, we have a zinnia, one of the 3 zinnia seeds that actually took this year. We planted so many and only a couple took, but at least the ones that did look nice and beautiful. And then a couple dusty millers to protect these 2 Montauk daisies that are actually starting to bud, which is really exciting because last year we transplanted them here from up there where that line of marigolds is. That's where they were before, and they weren't doing well because they were really old. So we divided them this way they could have a little burst of energy. Moving down to the second herb garden, there are chives. There are 2 types of sage. This one was overwintered, and look how beautiful it did. And this one we bought fresh in the spring. This is a thyme, and there are 2 rosemaries here that are really growing tall. And then behind this there is a couple little stems of oregano that have been choked out by a couple of the other herbs, but that's okay. And then moving on a little bit to here, there are a few more plants that there's some dusty millers, another marigold, and then some other assorted plants like zinnia, climbing phlox, and evening primrose. Moving on to this pot, there are a whole bunch of stone crops, variegated and non-variegated. And then on the side there is a vinca vine that is trailing down and making its way to some lower ground. And then behind this stone crop there are a couple other peach parfait heucheras up here. Before there was actually a bleeding heart here, but we took it out because it wasn't doing well because it was getting a lot of shade from this Japanese maple. Up by the Japanese maple there are a couple, well not a couple, more than a couple, pachysandras and a few ferns and a couple geranium types. I forgot what exactly they're called. To the right of it, there are a couple of different flowering bushes, such as spirea and rhododendron. And then moving down, I planted a couple peppers here just to see how they would do. These are all sweet, big Jim chili. That's what they are, big Jim chili. And here is one of them that is growing quite large, and it still doesn't have any color to it yet, but we'll see soon. Here's some mountain mint that smells disgusting. and tastes disgusting, but we can't get rid of it. And I forgot if this is a type of hosta or if it's something else. Please let me know in the comments below. And then there is a rhododendron here that I actually cut down because it was growing really tall, but there was nothing on the lower wood. It was just like on the top. So I cut it down this way it could bush out a little, and it's doing nice. And then those are weeds. Don't mind them. And then another stone crop here. Now let's move up to the top area. I will walk up there with you. Just stick with me. Alrighty, so we're to the top 2 layers here, and over here by my good friend Rooster, that's not actually his name, he's just a rooster, there are some purple irises here, and a bald-faced hornet that's really creeping me out. These are a couple hydrangeas. This one actually bloomed. This is our only hydrangea that blooms on old wood. So I try not to prune this one, but I had to last year. I don't know, I needed to, and it gave me 2 flowers. So see, I have to hold back next year. And then all the others are hydrangeas that bloom on new wood. So these are all blue hydrangeas, and then there's one up there, and this is my Limelight hydrangea tree. Actually, you can see the stem there, and it grows as a tree, and behind there are a couple variegated and non-variegated hostas that are blooming back there just to give a little cover and protection to the floor from erosion. And then a couple ferns lining the railroad ties here. Here there's one big patch of astilba that is flowering, and when they flower from afar they look pretty nice, but when you get close you realize they're just like all little seeds, and it's not as pretty. And behind there's a hydrangea that is actually just starting to bloom now in late September, but we might move that to the front where we need some color in the spring and summer. Another hydrangea and our big patch of marigolds that we envisioned to be really full and beautiful. And from down there it looks really nice, but then when you get up here you realize all the ones in front, they are really beautiful and full, but then most of the ones in back have gotten eaten. There were so many here. We must have bought at least 50 of them. And just so you know how big one is, so you see this patch of yellow ones, cut it in half, and that is one plant. So it comes up and it separates here. So that is one whole plant, and that is one whole plant. So if you imagine that going down, maybe we've got 15, and then probably about 5 dispersed through the back. So there were a ton that were eaten and we had to take out. And then moving to the back here, there was one of these pines that was actually filling up this whole entire section, like completely. There was no room at all. And so me and my mom worked on taking it out. This way we could have a little space back here and a little something different from the green, because I don't know if you've noticed, but our whole backyard is lined with these bushes. So that's the least thing we need more of. So under this sort of weeping pine, I'm not sure what it's called either, but we planted a couple ferns because they really like partial shade, partial sun. So those are doing magnificently. And there are 3 types of ferns under here. There was one here that is really cool, like really interesting. I've never seen one like it. And there's one here, I think it's called like dinosaur fern or something like that. I'm probably wrong. You're gonna look it up and find nothing because I'm wrong, but that's okay. And then this is another catmint that we put up here just to leave alone so we can see a little color. A couple pollinators can come back here, and then a ornamental grass here. Down here we have a silver sage that was generously gifted to me by one of my subscribers. You know who you are, thank you. And it is doing really well here. It is growing tons of thick new leaves, and I hope it will make it through the winter. Another Montauk Daisy is here. I'm probably going to trim off these 2 branches on the side because I just want the nice form of the middle of it. And then a quite large and unruly viburnum that is growing here. that will be trimmed to, if you see how big it is, let me step back. It will probably be trimmed about to there because it is growing pretty large and is not flowering that great for us. And it's only its 3rd year in the ground with us. So we'll probably try to do something about that. Here we have another bigger patch of Astilba. And when there were some really terrible torrential floodings recently. And so a lot of our mulch from up here, there was a river and a lot of it was carried down and it went right into the Astilba. So you can see a lot of mulch like piled up on top of it. But that will eventually break down. So I don't have to worry about that. I just took what was really heavily on there off. And then a couple other marigolds here, like I was telling you before. And then we come to our full sun all day, every day part of our garden. Here we have a few random forsythias that were planted here this year. A few winter creepers like this one and that one there. And then one more there. And then for the plants that really love sun are all of these yuccas. And they are just doing absolutely magnificent. They are pushing up tons of offsets. You can see how many they are. And compared to these old ones that look okay, look how nice and new and fresh these new ones look. I'm excited for them to come up. And then moving back here, we have an oleander. Oleanders cannot winter in zone 6B. Because not because their leaves and their stems can't take it, but because if this frigid temperature gets to their roots, they will absolutely die. So we're gonna, when it gets a little colder, we're gonna put it into a pot and put it into our garage, and then when it's spring again, we'll bring it out and just keep it in a pot and repot it when it gets too big. This way we can easily transport it inside and outside when we need to do that. Then we go back here. There's nothing much in this area here, because it's just kind of plain and not really seen, so we don't need to plant anything there. But here there is, I think it's a type of fern. I'm not sure though, but it looks like it. And then a couple more stone crops that have been absolutely devoured, and some forsythias. Lastly, on the absolute edge of our property, there is a really beautiful flowering white dogwood that is unfortunately being taken over by some invasive vines that I'll probably have to try to get down with a rake, but to be honest, that's really hard to do and they'll just come back. So I'll try my best and see what happens. But other than that, that is the tour of my rock garden. One more thing I didn't mention, that is my hummingbird feeder down there that I put up. And in the winter, I'm going to put up my suet feeder because when it was summer, there were just so many house sparrows flocking to my suet feeder. And I don't want to be feeding house sparrows because they're invasive, so I'd rather feed more native birds that are overwintering here. So other than that, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me turn the camera. There I am. And if you did, please remember to subscribe and also like, because that really promotes my channel and helps other people to see videos like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed and have a great rest of your day. Bye.